Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 9 to Side podcast, where we chat with super amazing and inspirational people who've pounded the pavement before and after their 9 to 5s to get their side hustles off the ground. After listening to the interviews with these amazing guests, you'll walk away with a refreshed pep in your step and a newfound motivation to make your side hustle a reality. Hey, everybody, and welcome to season 1, episode 13. Lucky 13. Can't believe we're at episode 13. I'm having so much fun. I don't know if you guys listening are, but I'm having so much fun talking to all these people and listening to their stories. It's so cool. And I was just thinking as I'm sitting here in my sweatpants that I wear every day, it's either sweatpants or like yoga pants. It's a rotation really of kind of the same workout stuff with a sports bra. Yeah, that I've always been jealous of people that kind of can still put together effortlessly cool outfits, even if they're in loungewear all day, which is definitely not me. And I feel like when I was living in the city, I definitely knew people that, you know, your friends, that there's certain people who are super artsy, very creative, and it doesn't matter what they're wearing. They could be like lounging around with you in sweatpants, getting ready to go to bed, or like going to the gym, and whatever they put on, it's just like effortlessly cool and it looks creative and cool, but like they didn't try. It's just, I don't know. It's a look that I've always admired and strived for, but could never accomplish. Mine is more of like the hot mess. I have 500 children and 2 cats and cat hair on my pants. And that's sort of like my look. And I've just really tried to own that. But I feel like there are people you can tell who are just like super fashionable, who wake up and they don't try to be that way. They just have great style. They have a great eye for design and they're just super creative and they look great no matter what they're doing. And my next guest, Larisa Laivins, is incredibly creative. I mean, she's an artist at the core and she kind of has multiple side hustles going on, which I think is really cool. But her main side hustle is the brand that she owns, which is Larisa Laivins Jewelry. And she designs custom pieces. You'll definitely want to check out her site and buy something for yourself. Oh my gosh, her stuff is so amazing. So without further ado, this is my interview with Larisa Laivins. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I feel like you have so many cool, different things that you do. Give us a little background about you, who you are, where you live, and what you're currently doing. And then we'll kind of get into the journey of how you got to where you are. But what would you, since this in the spirit of side hustles, give us a little overview of who you are and what you would consider your side hustle right now.
My name is Larisa Laivins. I live in Los Angeles, in Mount Washington. Right now, I am the creative director for Jenni Kayne, which I do as a freelancer. And I have a jewelry business where I design and make some of the jewelry and sell it online and at a couple stores.
So the jewelry business that you started, that's your jewelry business, correct? Yeah. And you started, and the Jenni Kayne, you said? Jenni Kayne is fashion?
Yes.
Okay.
For Jenni Kayne, I design all the clothing, shoes, and handbags.
Oh. Wow.
And then the jewelry I design for myself. And yeah, I've been in fashion since I graduated from college. So since 2020. 2000, the year 2000.
So would you say you have currently right now, and then we'll get into kind of how you got to where you are, but would you say you have 2 side hustles? Is that fair? Like you have 2 jobs, really? Do they both take up same amount of time?
No, I would say I definitely spend more time on the fashion side. So I would say the jewelry is technically a side hustle. You probably find this since you talk to people who do side hustles. It's like, in this age of social media, it appears, I would say the jewelry is a side hustle, but I guess one of the things about side hustles is sometimes you have to pretend it's your main hustle, or you feel like you have to pretend.
Well, that is true. If you had the choice of only being able to do one, fashion or the jewelry,
I would probably pick the jewelry, even though I love doing the fashion work. It's hard to say. It's not like I'm like dying to escape the fashion world. At one time I was, which is why I had the side hustle.
Well, because I talk to a lot of people who it's like, okay, you're in this 9 to 5, it's not fulfilling. There's something missing in your life, or you're looking for an additional revenue stream. And that's kind of where the side hustle is born from, but you're doing it before and after your 9 to 5. That is nothing to do with your passion. Or your situation is a little more unique because, well, your background is in fashion. You started in fashion. You did work in quote unquote corporate America, right? Because you work for some big brands. So tell me about just your background and what you were initially studied and where you started your younger years in your career.
So I've always been into like making things, making art, and actually always pretty into fashion. Like as a kid growing up in Dallas, the Dallas Morning News every Wednesday had a fashion section, and I would like obsessively read it cover to cover. But I always kind of thought of myself as a kid, I guess, as a fine artist. So I went to a visual and performing arts magnet school for high school where I did painting and metal sculpture. And then for college, I went to Rhode Island School of Design. I majored in painting, which kind of like fashion was like not on my radar at all, and had a great experience there. And then when I graduated, everyone was moving to New York, put my stuff in the U-Haul with them and went to New York. And then at that point, I just needed a job, like any job. So that in my mind, I was going to like paint on the side and just work some job to be able to pay the rent and live in New York. So when I get to New York, I'm like looking for a job. And a couple people had been like, oh, you should try modeling. Go see Open Call, whatever they called it. I was like, like I actually am really awkward in front of the camera. And the woman that's sitting there is like, okay, she's like, I have a friend who has a fashion brand and he's looking for an assistant. Any interest in that? And I was like, yes. And she's like, fax me your And like that ended up working out. I ended up working for her friend as an assistant, not even a fashion assistant. But when I quit that job, I ended up, my friend had told me there was a temp agency that was only for fashion, which is still around. It's called 24/7. And I was like, well, if I'm going to temp, I'd rather work at a fashion company than like at a bank or something. So I signed on with him. And in the year 2000, I think I was one of the first graduating classes that like really knew how to use a computer, like Adobe Creative Suite and stuff like that. So the second job I got with him was at Ralph Lauren doing technical drawings for the sweater department. And I ended up staying there for 7 years.
Now, when you got it, was it kind of like you accidentally fell in? You were like, this is what I love to do? Or
No.
you just making money and still want to paint?
Yeah. I was still in the mindset of like, I'm just making this money. So someday I can paint. I say typical fashion company, but I would just say maybe typical company. Like the drama of The Office was a real turnoff for me. It just like hierarchy of it. I'll say this in advance. Overall, now in perspective of time, that was an amazing experience. There's no better education. I mean, I don't think you could get the same education there now, but for someone that had no experience in fashion, I came out of there knowing more about the business than someone who had gone to school, honestly. So at that time, after having been at Ralph Lauren for so long doing sweaters, at that point, I was an expert on yarn, sweaters. If you had hired someone to make pants for you and all of a sudden you found yourself needing shirts, you could just put the pants person on the shirts because it's like works the same way. But a lot of times those people don't have any clue how to make a sweater. So people were happy to hire a freelancer just to do the sweaters.
Gotcha.
So finally, I was able to work 2-3 days a week on these like projects for fashion and got a studio in New York to paint.
What was your goal for paint at this time when you were still like painting was your main thing? That's what you came to the city for. What was the goal? Did you want to have your own like gallery? Did you just want to
I
sell
wanted to
paintings?
show paintings at galleries. I guess just like be a part of the art scene. Like a lot of my friends were in that scene showing their work at galleries and selling their work. I'm like, the why of that. And like, I feel like in this state of paralysis, even now, I can't pinpoint why I didn't go for it. If it was like a fear of success, a fear of failure.
Go for the painting, like go
Yeah,
full in on the
like
painting.
really go for it. Like I had ideas, I would dibble dabble around in them, messing around at the studio, not really getting anything done. And there was always like something else that needed to happen. So I had finally made the main thing happen, which was make money and then still have days where I could just go to the studio. Finally, that had happened. Like,
But that's impressive. I mean, that's accomplishment. It's not like you were doing something that was, at least you were doing something creative in fashion, because some people have bank jobs and then they're trying to do
for
that and they just
sure.
go and sit at like a desk as a teller and then they're trying to paint. At least you're doing something artistic and creative in both your full-time
Yeah.
gig and your side. So,
Obviously, from your perspective, you're like, no, you were doing two connected things. To me, I was,
yeah.
so ungrateful. Anyway, but I kept freelancing and eventually I moved to LA. When I got here, I like got some freelance jobs, started working, and I've always been really lucky that like my freelance jobs usually turn into these like long-term freelance jobs. Like my job with Jenni Kayne, I've been freelancing for them for 8 years.
Are you always still feeling throughout this that fashion and what you're doing is just a means to make money?
Yes, I will say until
Interesting.
I had the baby, I can now see that something about having a baby has changed my relationship to commitment, maybe. I don't know. Like, finally, I'm ready to get back into a full time fashion gig. The ex that I moved to LA for, his mom was a former gem dealer. She had all these stones left over in her closet. She had said, like, oh, what am I going to do with these? I don't know. And I was thinking to myself, like, so I said to her, like, oh, maybe I could just design a few things for fun, have them made, and then, like, see if anyone wants to buy them. I mean, I was literally thinking, like, maybe I'll try to make 5 pieces. And then she was like, oh, I'm going to India in like a couple months. Come with me and we'll make the jewelry there.
Was this
Some
for
of
a
them
long
will,
period of time you went to India to do it?
I
Like a
was there for
3 week?
2 or 3 weeks, I
Oh,
think.
wow. Okay. So you were going over there to make all the stuff in India and then bring it back
Bring it
here or
back. And I
sell
guess
or
in the beginning, I was, oh, I'll do it. And then, like, maybe I'll have jewelry made in India. Like, that would be cool. I came back to LA and I was like, kind of happy with, say, like half the pieces. I was happy with them. And I was like, okay, so what do you do now? I've seen obviously the inner workings of a fashion brand. So I thought, I'm just going to go about having a jewelry collection. Like, I'll take the pieces that I like, figure out how to have them reproduced here, and just put my name on it and see if anyone wants to buy it. But especially when it's a side hustle, it's just like not practical. And making samples for jewelry is super expensive. Like I work in 18 karat gold. You know, if you're like, oh, I'm going to make this 20-piece collection and then go shop it around, and people may or may not buy each piece, it's just not to mention now, no one makes wholesale orders anymore. Everything is on consignment. So not only are you making your samples, but then if people make an order, you're paying for the whole thing. And if they sell it, you get paid. And if they don't, you just take your inventory back. So it didn't work the way I thought it would, basically. I discovered it pretty quickly. So with jewelry, you can make one and sell it or make two. No one's trying to have you make 100 diamond rings. So I feel like each collection I did progressively like gave me more information about literally everything, ways of working with the people that I work with. I would be like, oh, note to self, never tell them that it's not a rush. Next time, ask to see the piece at this point. Don't just let them finish it. Do one collection where I just did very loose, whatever I was feeling. And then another collection where I was like, no, it has to all like work together in this way. I definitely like was trying different approaches every time. Like I said, I was having all this fashion freelance stuff, which
was that
is a
giving you the
nice,
money to feed to start? Because I would imagine you have to put up to start a jewelry business like this. the cost that would go into it. There is some investment that goes into it. It's not something you can just kind of like start with
No,
no
I was
investment.
definitely using the money from the fashion gigs to get into this jewelry thing. I feel like I'm a little bit in the weeds here with the story, but essentially it's just been like a constant evolution between, I shouldn't say what I want it to be, but let's say how I want it to feel, right? I've used a couple different consultants and I feel like for the business, and they've all been helpful in certain ways, but I definitely, it's like almost like having a sounding board of a consultant. You kind of like really hone what's important to you. So let's say like I had a consultant who was, okay, like this ring's selling really great for you. So you should make it smaller and bigger and offer it in like 10 different stones. And, so a more like corporate approach, maybe where it was just focus on the good seller, spin it out. To me, I was like, ugh, like that sounds
Did
so
you like
boring to
that? I
me.
mean, because are you the main person in your business? Do you have a staff? Is this, or is it
It's
just, it's
just
just
me.
you? Okay.
Like I have people downtown LA who do the casting. I have guys that do polishing, stone setting, but they're not like my staff. They're like craftsmen that have their own businesses. There are some pieces that I made myself because part of what I really love actually is being hands-on with the jewelry. And I can make jewelry. I have the skills to do some of it, maybe not all of it. But what I really enjoy is just to keep working on a piece until it feels the way I want it to feel. So I feel like the challenge with the jewelry being a side hustle is sometimes I just don't have the time to do it that way, right? I will like outsource stuff and then I'll get it back. People will love it. It'll be great. I'll get compliments on the craftsmanship and all that stuff. But when I like look at it, I'm like, I wish it was just had a little more hand. It looks like it was touched by human hands a little bit more. Because, some of these guys are so talented. And like one of my best jewelers, he'll be like, this is a Tiffany job, the
Yeah.
highest level. I know, but it also looks like a Tiffany job, like meaning Tiffany is a great brand. I'm not looking for something to look so manufactured, too polished or something. So
Right.
it's been a real journey in a balance between having the time to do it versus outsourcing it and having it feel and look the way I imagine.
Well, I would imagine it's hard to have a business that you are the creative brain behind and you have a real, obviously, connection to that and the product and how it looks and feels, and then also have it grow because you can only do so much as one person and touch all the pieces if you're going to be selling it and lots of people want it. So I would imagine that's hard. Do you still consider, I guess my question is, when you started your jewelry business, were you like, this is what I want to do? Like, this is the business I want to do. I feel like this is my passion. This is my main thing. I've always wanted to have my own business. Or have you always looked at kind of everything as a little bit of the fashion freelance, the side businesses? They're not one thing that's kind of a leading driver in your life that you feel more
So
passionate about than the other.
originally, I think I want to grow this jewelry business and like quit fashion. I think that was the initial idea. But I kind of like having the security of the fashion business. I did make like my DBA is Atelier Laivins, and I consider everything under that umbrella. Like
Oh,
for a
that's
while,
smart.
I'm like a creative atelier. Like I can design anything, right? In the apparel and accessories world. Someone could come to that umbrella and get any of
That's
those
smart.
things.
Yeah.
But I would say in the last year, after I came out of the newborn fog, I was really reflecting on Jenni Kayne is an amazing company. It's like all women, super supportive of being a mom. Yeah, I've been working for them for so long, such a great people to work with. I've always treated, I've always had this like disdain for my fashion work in a way, but I was able to reflect on like how arrived here in my life. Oh, one other thing that has to do with this to say about Jenni Kayne is I used to only do the sweaters because that's what everyone used to bring me in for, is to do the sweaters. After maybe 6 years, the person that did the rest of the collection left and they asked me if I would take over everything. It sounds kind of fun to try. Of course,
Yeah.
I know a lot about sweaters, but I also think a lot about clothes. So I was like, I'll try it. I want you guys to know I've never made shoes before. And they were like, it's fine. You'll do great. I mean, super supportive.
Again, amazing. I feel like again, do you want to take over for the whole brand and design everything? You're like, yeah, I guess so. Sure.
So I think now I can like think about my whole life. It's so interesting how your like personal narrative plays such a big role in how you perceive your life, right? I've been telling myself that like, oh, this is not what I meant to be doing. But then I think about like my childhood, like poring over these fashion magazines and fashion section of the newspaper. My mom did a lot of sewing, so I spent a ton of time at the fabric store trying to find good fabrics. And Jenni Kayne's doing furniture now, and I'm like, my dad's an architect. I spent a lot of time thinking about interiors and furniture and clothes. It's weird how talking about a personal narrative, I like left all that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's like you pick and choose how you make your narrative. And I was like, but all that stuff was so important to me. And I've just like ignored that until now. Weirdly, all that is prepared me for this moment of thinking about all this stuff together. And I feel like for the first time, I think I can go back to full time in fashion and still do the jewelry in a way that's satisfying to me. So that's the plan right now.
I think that's incredible. I think it's so interesting because the whole time that I'm talking to you, I feel like fashion is kind of like not an afterthought, but a sort of accidental, wasn't supposed to be what you were getting into. It's like a common thread through your whole story of really opening what I think seems like a lot of doors for you. Like you met people, you got opportunities through fashion, and now you're kind of coming around full circle and wanting to go back full time to fashion, but that will allow you, one, sounds like an amazing opportunity to work for that brand and to go back full time and have that stability, but doing something you love, but also being able to continue to do the jewelry business in a way that you want to and not put pressure for that to be kind of your main thing. So you can do that as you will. I think it's so interesting because I think you have such a cool blend of both things, but all in the same creative vein, which I think you're really lucky to have that.
I definitely feel that now. And I
Having
am
a
glad
kid
I
will
was
do that
able.
to you. You'll
Yeah.
wake up and be like, wow, let me just reflect on my life a bit, see what's really important. And your time, I think you assess differently also. It doesn't feel endless. And I think you look at things as, well, how do I want to spend my time? I think by nature, like a lot of these calls have been with moms and women too, who are just, what do you want to do with your time? And you start to really think about what's important and what makes you happy.
Yeah.
So, well, I think your story is so interesting and I love your jewelry. Your business I want to check out. Is it Jenni Kayne? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of clothing is it?
I would say it's like, I don't know. I should know, right? Like exactly how they characterize it. It's not a luxury brand, but we make like really nice clothes. I would say it's like a California laid back luxury brand.
Oh.
And we make a lot of sweaters. I think that's probably what we're best known for. But yeah, check it out.
And then just before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to ask you two more things, just in terms of for people who are listening who might be thinking about wanting to start a side hustle, what kind of tips or any advice that you could offer people who are thinking about getting into something, even if it could be in your area, jewelry, fashion?
Yeah. I would say the number one tip is just start. So many people I know are like waiting for the thing, and it's usually of their own making, the roadblock, let's say. So whether it's like, oh, but I need to update my website, or I need to finish this next thing, or this isn't perfected, or I would just say, even if you only have one thing, some people I know have like 3 items, whatever it is. And they're like, oh, but I need more. And I'm like, no, you don't. Big cartel. Go on there. You can open up a store. 10 items or less, it's free. And there you go. You're going. You're rolling.
That's such good advice. I love that advice because I think that's a big blocker. I know that happens with me too.
Yeah, like I'd say like don't wait for perfection because it's never going to happen, and the only way you're going to move forward is by doing it maybe not the best, and then you'll be like, okay, so next time I'll do it differently. No one's going to remember the time that you contacted the wrong people, sent the wrong email, whatever it is, no one will remember. Just keep going. I'd also say these can maybe all be combined, but find other people doing the same thing. It could be a mentor, someone who has more experience than you. It could be peers, people who are also starting the same kind of thing. I've done a few jewelry trade shows, like jewelry shows, like at Javits or Vegas or whatever. And a lot of people at all these things, much like a corporate office, there's lots of complaining that goes on, not meeting people's expectations, whatever. I thought there would be more foot traffic. I thought this or I thought that. But I will say that every time I've come out of there with like a really much stronger group of peers in the industry. So I have like 30, 40, 50 people I could call on if I have a question about anything. Do you have a guy that can do this? Do you know a guy who can do that? If someone contacts you and asks you XYZ, how do you respond? Whatever it is, they're at the same level as me or maybe slightly above, but like you don't necessarily need to find some superstar mentor, even if it's just other people in the trenches with you trying to make it happen. Like I would just seek those people out in whatever way.
I love that advice. I think a lot of people too, I talked to somebody yesterday, you could like shy away from doing that because you might think that other people are doing the same thing and maybe it's like competition or I don't know, maybe it makes you feel like your idea will never get off the ground because there's a lot of people doing the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of jewelry businesses out there, but that doesn't mean that your jewelry isn't different and you can't make it different and unique, which is
right. I mean, I actually feel like maybe from that perspective, jewelry is easier because you can so clearly see that even if you were all using the same stone setter, the jewelry would all come out so differently. Whereas if you had like a less tangible product, I could see the feeling of being more proprietary you wouldn't be able to see as clearly that everyone's execution is going to be different.
right.
The other thing I would say is do what is authentic to you. Like, because everyone's showcasing their entire lives on social media, I feel like it's easy to be like, oh, like this is how you have to do it. Or even like for me, having been in the apparel industry, thinking like, oh, I need to like make these things on a certain schedule and shoot the campaign like this and make the line sheet like this and contact people like this. Like you think that there's this formula you have to follow. But I would say the luxury of a side hustle is that you don't have to nail it the first go and you can like be authentic to yourself. Like I have a friend who also makes jewelry, not as a side hustle, as her main hustle. She's amazing. She is not on social media and she's
Really?
has the most success with her brand of anyone I know that does jewelry.
How
She
does
has a
she
showroom and they peddle her stuff to stores that buy it wholesale. I mean, but like in this day and age, people would say like, there's no way your business is going to be a success. But for her, she doesn't want to do it. And it still works. Like,
yeah, that's really good
so
advice.
yeah, like you could just try it. I mean, I would say, I feel like this is from some like new age YouTube video that I watched, but basically like if you have anxiety around that idea of you're thinking like, oh, it just every time I think about, I don't know what it is. Let's say this, like social media, like that I have to post 3 times a day or whatever, and it just feels so wrong and not true to myself or whatever. It's like if you have trouble getting out of that, like treat what you are feeling that you should do, even if your logical brain says it's wrong, treat it like an experiment. Say like, I'm going to try it my way for 4 weeks and like see what happens because it could go great.
I love that. Yeah.
You don't have to follow the rules.
I think that's great advice.
And then my last piece of advice is just do the next thing. Especially with the side hustle, it's easy to feel like you've fallen behind because you've been spending all this time on your main hustle. You meant to have XYZ done by this date. You didn't hit it. Everything's piling up. It's overwhelming. I mean, I use this every day for all my hustles, no matter what. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm just like, what's next on the list? And I'm going to pretend like the rest of it doesn't exist. And that's like how I do everything.
That's really, really good advice because I get analysis paralysis all the time by looking at, and then I do nothing because I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice. I love those tips. So two last things. The last thing is just kind of telling us your website and where we can find you. But how has having a side hustle, your own jewelry business, how has it changed your perspective on things in life, like how you approach goals, how you feel about yourself? Has it changed anything about you?
I mean, I almost feel like I covered that in my tips. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's really helped me see that there's so many different ways to get somewhere. If you want to do something, whether you want to just do it and no one ever sees it or build and grow the business exponentially, there's literally no one way to do it. And especially in retail right now, the rules of the game are so up in the air. The old model of like wholesale retail is so a dinosaur right now. There's direct to consumer and all that stuff, but there's actually no true answer yet. You can really just do what you feel and see if it works. And it's a relief.
I think it's really cool. You're so authentic too. I feel like everything you do and the way you talk and your whole life and career path has just been very authentic. And you've just kind of done your own thing and not let anybody kind of tell you one way or the other. And I think that's really good advice because I think that's why a lot of people don't do things because it does seem overwhelming. Like there's a certain way to do something or like you have to do it a certain way. And I think your tips in that is really great. It's just like do what feels right to you and be authentic and see what happens. I think that's great. Well, thank you so much. And now tell everybody just in closing where all the different places we can find you, where you are on the internet, social media, Instagram, all those things.
Okay. For the fashion stuff, you can go to jennikayne.com. That's JenniKayne.com. And I have been designing all the apparel, shoes, and accessories with Jenni for the last many years. And then the jewelry is at LarisaLaivins.com. And I'm on Instagram at Larisa Laivins Jewelry.
So
yeah. And you can also, if you want to see the jewelry in person, the biggest selection is at Sunroom in Malibu, which is a great store.
Oh, I was going to ask because I saw that on your website. So are those pieces that they display for you there at the store or they sell, you can buy them directly?
Like you can buy them there.
Yeah.
You can buy them there or you could buy them directly from me. But yeah, they sell a large selection. And then I don't think you can see stuff in person right now, but there's a great Instagram called Gem Breakfast. And I work with her doing one-of-a-kind pieces. She has a whole array of independent designers that do like one-of-a-kind jewelry for her. And a lot of it's like for engagement rings and stuff like that, but very cool stuff. I love working with her.
That's awesome. That's Gem Breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. On Instagram. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun getting to chat with you.
Fun. Great to talk to you.